Netflix has been releasing original shows based on video games. They started with Castlevania and then Arcane and Cuphead show among others. And I want to include some of their soundtracks as part of my reaction video series. Because although they are not technically video games, their source material and their lore is definitely based on the games themselves. So I want to start with one of my favorite shows, Arcane. We are listening and reacting to the soundtrack called Enemy, written and composed by Imagine Dragons for the show itself. Let's take a listen. Wow, it is not commonly heard in mass media, but this is the style that I call symphonic EDM. And one of the notable times I heard this kind of style was in the movie soundtrack of Tron Legacy. I love that movie, and I especially loved it for the soundtrack that was composed by Daft Punk. However, instead of going for their traditional, straightforward electronic EDM style music, they actually combined EDM synths, a lot of pulsing bass, lots of pulsing kicks and synth basses layered on top with orchestral strings and some French horns, and it sounds so good. And this is definitely reminding me of that style.
To the sounds of the silence that allows for my mind to run around with my ear up to the ground.
Wow, that is such a very simple layer. So far, this is very genius. A little bit of disclaimer, this is not a first-time reaction. I've watched the show, so I've heard this song many times over, but this is the first time I'm actually taking a closer musical look into it. And for this song, they only used 2 chords. It's only using B minor and F sharp. Dun 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 dun. It only changes in the chorus.
I'm searching to behold the stories that I told when my back is to the world that was smiling when I turned.
See? Dun, 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 dun. Just 2 chords during the verse, and then it only changes to a different chord, which is G during the chorus. Wow, it sounds so regal and so majestic and lush, especially the orchestral strings building up, intensifying, and then we hear the drop.
Oh, the misery. Everybody wants to be my enemy. Spare the sympathy. Everybody wants to be.
And despite having a more simple melody and simple chord progression, it's still always moving forward. And there's one reason for that. It's using one of my favorite time signatures, which is 6/8. In my opinion, and in my experience as a composer and arranger, 6/8 is always a very active, very adventurous time signature. You will hear the 6/8 meter, or sometimes 12/8, which is also known as a compound meter. You will hear this kind of meter in some of the most adventurous soundtracks, such as John Williams' Superman. Dun, da, 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 dun. That's a 12/8. Also, the song, the piece, He's a Pirate from Pirates of the Caribbean. Da-da-dun, dun, da-da-dun, dun, da-da-dun, dun, da-da-dun. Also 6/8. You know what other types of pieces also use 6/8 most of the time. Traditional Irish music, the Irish jigs, most of the time they are done in 6/8 meter, and that is because 6/8 is such an active sounding meter. So I'm not surprised even if Enemy sounds on the simpler side of the melody. The fact that the strings on the background, they are constantly doing even if the song in the beginning sounds a bit more subdued, more mellow, it's still moving forward because of that 6/8 meter feel. I love 6/8. I'm actually a huge fan of the Netflix shows based on video games. Some of my favorites are Cuphead show and Arcane itself. How about you? Let me know in the comments. Yeah, so even with the drums and all the rhythm section, it's doing another 6/8 characteristic of rhythm called a shuffle. So most of the time in popular music or pop music or rock music, there is what we call two types of rhythmic meters. There's a straight meter, which is usually associated with 4/4. It's like very straightforward, tat, 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 tat. But for a shuffle, the feel is like ta 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 ta. You will hear that a lot of times in jazz music. You will hear it most of the time in the pattern of the cymbals or the hi-hats. But the interesting part actually is those syncopated ta 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 are actually secret 6/8 or hidden 6/8. So ta 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 ta. You will hear this in dance music. You will hear this in hip hop. But actually, those are hidden 6/8, very fast. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, ta 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 ta. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But you're skipping the 2 and the 5. So it's like 1, 3, 4, 6, 1, 3, 4, 6. What the tan ta tan ta tan ta tan. Oh my god. Wow. Okay. The way this song was written is very simple. Just 2 chords for the verse and 2 chords for the chorus. Very simple chord progression. The fact that they were able to make it sound so dynamic, so interesting, so varied with just the melodic writing, genius melodic writing. It's become a masterpiece. I believe it's a masterpiece in itself. And even the lyrics is very much my favorite line is actually, everyone wants to be my enemy, spare the sympathy. Everyone wants to be my enemy. If you play League of Legends, like myself, Volibear Bane, by the way, if you play League of Legends, you know it's a multiplayer game where everyone fights each other. Sometimes you're fighting with your teammates for resources. So it's very, very much appropriate for the theme of League of Legends and even the story of Arcane. Without spoiling anything, it's very much centered on conflict. Conflict between nations, conflict between family, conflict between friends, and stuff like that. So yeah, this is the perfect theme for the show, probably for the game as well. So yeah.
The silence that allows for my mind to run around, with my ear up to the ground. I'm searching to behold the stories that I told when my back is to the world that was smiling when I
I've actually been upping my game, producing some more music reaction video for you to enjoy, but I'm also always looking for song suggestions, so let me know in the comments. And if you want to see some more of my reaction content, click here.